Hi everyone, my name's Carla. I'm with Nonlinear Creations, and today we're going to chat with two Sitecore MVPs about what's involved with upgrading to Sitecore's newest releases. Amanda, let's start with you. Can you tell us a bit about the new features that have been added to Sitecore 7?
Yeah, so one of the biggest new features of Sitecore 7 is what we call massive scalability. So it is the ability to author and store and publish massive amounts of information in a way that makes it easy for content authors to access and find it and to edit and author it. So this is primarily achieved through a new feature called buckets, which essentially allows thousands, millions amounts of content items to be stored in an efficient way. So if you're an organization who has thousands of news articles or media items or anything like that, buckets offer an option to store those in a way that doesn't require people to be clicking through an enormous content tree. So they act as a repository that is highly efficient and indexed by the search engine, allowing content authors to access it easily.
Great. Glenn?
Yeah, so I think Amanda's touched on it a little bit. The latest introduction in Sitecore 7.2 is the notion of parallel publishing. So if you're creating hundreds or thousands of news articles or pieces of content on an hourly or daily basis, this parallel publishing capability in Sitecore 7.2 allows you to move content much more quickly from the approved state in content management to the final state in content delivery. So that's a huge benefit. The other piece is as Sitecore continues to evolve the product, that search interface that Amanda described is beginning to permeate the entire content authoring experience. So not only can you search, you can also use facets to find content as a content author, and that's incredibly powerful.
Great. Thanks, Glenn. So our next question is, how will the improvements to search functionality in the newest release benefit content authors? Glenn, we'll start with you.
Sure. So I think following on from what I just said, the ability to add the facets to the search interface allows you to slice up the content in different ways. This allows you to apply taxonomies or tags to content. So in particular, when you need to reuse and share content across different sites or different areas of sites, that's quite powerful. The other thing about that search interface that's quite nice is the way it displays search results is also very configurable. You can have it show a fairly traditional Google-style listing. It can be presented as a table if the information is very detailed or technical, maybe product listings. You can also make it render out previews as well. And if you want to extend the search API, you can also make it go into documents and files. So I think that's a huge improvement over the previous releases of Sitecore.
Great. Amanda?
Yeah, I think it's also worth mentioning that these the interface improvements that Glenn has touched on also extend to the DMS, the digital marketing system. So when content authors and marketers are looking to configure personalization, A/B tests, or any of those other features, they will also be able to take advantage of that new search interface and the power of the facets in particular to find the pieces of content they want to leverage for those two mechanisms.
Okay, so for our next question, Amanda, what are the biggest concerns you hear from clients who are thinking about upgrading to Sitecore 7?
Probably the biggest concerns are just ensuring it goes smoothly and what that entails. So everything from the impact to their production environment, whether the site will have to be down at all, to how big of a change is this for the content authors and administrators who work with the product every day. So when we work with clients in terms of an upgrade, we typically will plan out what we call a dress rehearsal, whereby the entire upgrade is performed offline on a copy of the production build, so that something can be documented. You're always going to run into unexpected issues as you're upgrading, so the documentation and resolution of those can be explicitly planned for when you actually do move to production. And probably the other biggest thing, as I mentioned, is preparing the team. So an aspect of training should be planned in to make sure that those folks are comfortable with whatever's coming. the third most important thing is probably what you're going to do with it. So in some cases, people upgrade just to stay pretty much in lockstep with the product roadmap. But if they are looking to take advantage of things like buckets and the new search features, they will need to plan in, obviously, development and deployment time for those as well.
Okay, thanks. Glenn, anything to add to that?
I think Amanda's touched to some extent on it. The notion of training, those new search interfaces require training for the content authors, but at the technical level, those search interfaces are powered by updates to the search providers in Sitecore. So that means updates to Lucene or possibly deploying Solar. So training for the development and IT teams on those features and capabilities, if they're not familiar with them, would also be warranted for sure.
Great. Thanks, Glenn. So for our last question, what are the next steps if someone is ready to get the ball rolling on upgrading? Glenn?
Sure. So Amanda's touched on that as well. Our first recommendation would be to conduct that trial upgrade. And that's largely because moving from your current deployment of Sitecore to the latest release requires a stepping stone. So if you're on, for example, Sitecore 6.4, you upgrade to 6.5, 6.6, 7.0, 7.1, 7.2. So doing that trial run, understanding the steps and what you need to address at each stage is crucial, getting it documented, and then just understanding that break fix period.
Amanda?
Yeah, a couple of other things to mention. It's definitely worth double checking with your Sitecore sales rep on your license agreement and confirming that there will be no particular barriers to moving from 6 to 7. Usually there aren't, but it's worth double checking so that there's no surprises. And the other thing I'd mention is that if your solution does incorporate a number of either Sitecore modules, marketplace modules, or any third-party connectors, they may be on their own upgrade roadmap, so it's definitely worth double checking whether they have their own version compatible with 7 or whether you're going to have to work out a contingency plan if they do not.
Okay. Those are all the questions I have. Thanks, guys.
All right.
You're
Thanks.
welcome. Thank you.